and forth. We talked about the reports he had signed, not just in the Observer, not just in the Torch, but Variety. I just want to make this clear. I don't want anybody heaping any negative media in the direction of Wade Keller or Dave Meltzer for getting that wrong. Variety reported it too. I know a Paul Heyman story when I hear one. I mean, if my man was about to debut on TNN, he doesn't want it out there, the conversation being that one of the top stars has now flown the coop and he's leaving. In fact, the whole narrative that WCW never made an offer to Taz or they didn't even respond to Brad Small, that too is inaccurate. It turns out what really happened is WCW made an offer. It wasn't necessarily overwhelming, and Taz had to make a decision. Do I go to WCW and see how some of the other ECW talent has been treated there? And they're frustrated, like his old pal Raven, who at this point had been or was about to be so frustrated that he takes Eric Bischoff up on his offer to leave WCW. So that's certainly in the back of his mind. And as we know, that contract wound up not being signed. And they're continuing to work on one or two things, but they're close. They're close. We go into damage control. I mean, really and truly, Paul Heyman's in an unenviable position. Taz is not only the champ, but my top star. And we've been on a handshake deal from day one, but now we're on TV. They needed Taz more than ever right here, didn't they?
Oh, yeah. He's top dog.
Yeah.
He was the most over guy in the company, in my opinion. And that's why I never let up on recruiting him and trying to make him feel comfortable with this arrangement. I knew it was going to be a challenge because he was surrounded by uncertainty. And pretty much his whole career, he was either an indie wrestler, just going by what he was going to make that night, which is scary for a married man with a family. It really is. So I just knew that we could use Taz, and I thought he could become a star, and I still believe that. If he had got hurt, they're telling how far off the ladder he would have gone. He was potentially dangerous for the established main eventers because here's a new guy. He's hungry. He's over with the crowd. He's unique. Nobody else. We don't have anybody else like him. So I just thought it was the right thing to do, and I still believe that to this very day. He was just, like I said, unfortunately, he got hurt. He tore his muscles. I can't remember what it was. Was it his tricep? Conrad, do you remember? Or tricep, bicep, pec? I don't know. Something in his upper body tore up. So, but I remember telling him too, you got nothing to worry about because we're not going to get rid of you at all because of this injury. So take that out of your process and just get back in the gym and train and rehab your ass off and get better than ever. So that was the message to him. And I think he was very relieved the fact that he was making a pretty good buck and he was going to keep making those checks, get those checks every week. And I think that's how you do business. You can't fire somebody or get rid of somebody because they got hurt, at least in my world.
Of course, we know when ECW on TNN debuts, it's supposed to be a huge celebration. I don't know if that's exactly the way it was received by the talent at the time. It does feel like maybe it was starting to be a little too late or too little too late, as the old expression goes. But we start to see the wheels come off in this relationship after there seemingly being an understanding that, hey, we're going to get this deal done. Allegedly, there's a couple of sticking points, something along the lines of the number of dates or personal appearances that were included for the amount. And both sides were sort of digging their heels in. And they had a handshake agreement and understanding, allegedly, that, hey, we'll just do this deal through the end of the year and then we'll see how it goes. But I guess as Heyman continued to push, this is certainly the narrative through the newsletters and the Torch and the Observer, that Taz was just not coming to the table. So as the story goes, Paul Heyman doesn't attend a live event that turns into a television taping, of course, in Jacksonville, Florida. And he tells Tommy Dreamer, hey, tonight, make sure to tell Taz that even though he's the champ, he's going to lose to Sabu in a non-title match in the main event. And as the story goes, Taz picked up the phone to call Paul Heyman, like, hey, why am I losing? If I'm the champ, why am I losing a non-title match? Like, Kind of feels like a throwaway. Why are we doing that? And allegedly, this was a move that Paul Heyman was doing just to show Taz who the boss was and that he needed to go sign. Well, Taz did go sign. He hung up, did the job for Sabu, and then signed his WWF deal.
That's right.
Is this the way you remember hearing some of the tone of the conversations? I'm trying to jog your memory that
Yeah.
they had a handshake agreement. There was a couple details, but now he's wanting me to lose non-title matches. Like, what are we doing?
That helped our recruiting.
Yeah.
It helped our recruiting because, as I said early on, when we were talking about Taz, his background and the environment that he was raised in wrestling was one that kind of fostered and promoted insecurity. And he was a very insecure guy because he'd been jacked around so much and lied to and late pay and all this stuff. I can't imagine having a wife and a small son and not knowing when or if my check is going to come on time and for the full amount. I just, it's scary. And he came to that realization as well. And so at the end, when we were closing the deal, it wasn't hard. It was very simple. We wanted him. That's the greatest thing. If you get a talent that you want and that wants you, you shouldn't have an issue over Mickey Mouse bullshit. And we didn't. It may have been reported as such. He was just reluctant to leave home. Taz was reluctant to leave home, and home was ECW to Conrad. So we had to get past that. And it's like a kid going off to college. You can't sleep in your mom and dad's house forever. So but boy, we were lucky to have him, and I was lucky to be a physician to help him succeed. He did it, but I at least tried to foster an atmosphere that he could cultivate and take of his own and run with it. So I remember his when they were talking about announcers, and he got the opportunity to be an announcer, I think, on SmackDown with Michael Cole, and they did a real good job. They teamed well. It was almost competitive between Cole and Taz and the King and JR. It got to be a little competitive because the ratings are factored in and the houses and the whatever. So I just think he was a good find. He was versatile. He could do a lot of different things. And if he didn't wrestle for us anymore, so what? He has become a hell of a good broadcaster.